So fantastic. I think you just heard the long list of international projects that Yann has done across the world. We had been talking about the entire day, we had been talking about real estate, we had been talking about technology, finance, sales and marketing. One thing that we did not touch upon was design. And who better to talk to who has an overview of the design, not only in India, but across the world. Yann, you have been designing projects in Asia, in US, in Europe. What brings you to India?
Actually, it's friends which actually are bringing me to India. I did many years ago, about 10 years ago, the Sofitel in Mumbai. And doing that work, I was lucky enough to be teamed up with a local architect, which is Access Architect. And we worked together very well. And over the years, we collaborated on a number of projects from Malabar Hill to other places. And for many years, we said, oh, we should do something. And apparently, COVID was good for one thing, is that the market in China, where I was very, very busy, actually disappeared. And suddenly we had the time, and we started to collaborate more closely, and we said, this is idiotic, we should do something here. And we pulled that trigger, and we finally established a common presence in Mumbai, which is a great fun, even though I am not a great fan of the rain, I must say. You know, I always get caught, trying to catch a taxi at the wrong time. But no, it's a very pleasant place. And it turns out that this is the only place in the world which is going to see significant growth in the coming years. But again, this was not in the back of my mind. What was in the back of my mind was collaborating with friends.
That's right. Good for India that you plan to collaborate with Access Architects, and I think the new entity is AXS.
Exactly.
Right. So you said you have seen, India has a lot of opportunities. It's an emerging market. It's a developing country. In terms of design, in terms of building design or architecture, what are the opportunities you see here?
Of course, the market, the most important is, of course, residential. In terms of planning residential, this is a talent or a skill that doesn't travel very well, because in planning an apartment in Mumbai or Hong Kong or in New York is just a different thing. However, it puts me in a position to be able to say, hey, why are you doing that? And most of the time there is a perfectly good reason why, the zoning or the market, but sometimes there is no reason, and you say, well, it's true, we could try something else. So for that particular residential market, my function is really to get people to think outside the box, and since I am outside the box, it's much easier for me.
Right, you have an outsider perspective for the project.
What you look at, the other thing I want to do is to get people to be more happy, right? You see all these buildings, they're all gray and beige. It's like a symphony of boring buildings. People are very reluctant to use colors in a creative way. Very reluctant to step outside of that line, and we need to push them, because after all, if I buy an apartment, I'm going to be there for 20 years. I might as well be happy to be there. And that's a dimension beyond the spreadsheets and the investment opportunities on the side of a buyer, the builder. There is also the fact that you're going to have children that you're going to raise there. They might as well be happy to be there. You might as well enjoy your investment, not just the return, but also the emotional return on that investment is very important.
That's right, emotional return. And I think what we rightly mentioned, that moving out of the lines, probably out of the boundaries, and thinking out of the box is something where you saw the opportunity you can bring value to Indian design scene. In terms of your international work, you have done work all across the world. What had been your most challenging experience, or maybe most challenging project for you?
Well, the Sofitel Mumbai was quite challenging. That was my first work in India, and I said, my God, what is this? I was coming from New York, where people function on a schedule, which is, when you make an appointment at a doctor, you are going to have an appointment at 8:55, and at 8:55, you are supposed to be there. So to be here was a bit of a shock. However, it turns out that there is an organization of sort, but it takes a while to get used to it.
So there is an order in chaos in India.
There is. I would not say it's chaos, but it's certainly challenging sometimes.
Okay. So getting used to the way of working here, probably one of the challenges. You have done a lot of hospitality projects, across countries. Luxury and comfort is something which is given for such projects. But now we are talking about sustainability and wellness also. A lot of people think it's a trade-off. If you want to have sustainability and wellness, it's a trade-off with luxury and comfort.
By definition, if you build a hotel, for instance, and there is vast opportunities in India. I'm fond of saying that every year there are more people going to Phuket, Thailand, just Phuket, than come to the subcontinent. It's just crazy. So we're going to see a lot of hotels. Obviously, if you don't build the hotels, you preserve the environment better, right? So you could start by not doing anything. But the clients usually they insist we do something. Right. Of course, there is the challenge of comfort, luxury, and footprint. I am not certain those are necessarily at odds. I'm not a great believer in technology. I've heard technology this, technology that, AI this, AI that. But the fundamentals of hospitality remain hospitality. That when you arrive at the front desk, the people smile at you. That you get good service, that you have an environment that you're proud of. That's really the fundamentals. The technology is not going to be all that important, and when it is applied in the management of the building itself, it should be transparent to the guest anyway. The sourcing of materials is, I think, a great challenge. In another country, I was doing a house of some importance for a friend of mine, and I wanted to use stone, so in Thailand. And so all over Southeast Asia, we have those wonderful Khmer buildings and sandstones, in the jungles of Angkor Wat, all this fantastic. I wanted to use that stone. You cannot find that stone. The only stone you find in Southeast Asia is coming from China. Probably quarried somewhere else in the world and cut in China. So even when you try your best, the sourcing is the weak point of this environmental concerns that we have. The rest we can take care of,
right.
But the sourcing of the materials remains a challenge.
Right. The carbon footprint of the material, we see a lot of architects emphasizing on using local materials, like you mentioned, local stone or local, fabrics, local other interior materials. But like you mentioned, right, the sourcing, we have so many glass buildings, a lot of these advanced or the smart glasses come from far away from, India. So that's one point probably we can all look at, if we want to go sustainable. We don't have to compromise on luxury, but yes, maybe sourcing
you
of the
could turn
materials.
you could turn down the air conditioning a little bit. That would help.
That would help,
This technology will help us actually take steps to reduce our footprint, not because of the technology that is used, but it's because it's going to allow us to take positive steps, such as lowering a little bit the air conditioning, such as making certain there is not too much light or things like that. So it will enable us to act upon a way of life more efficiently.
Change of the mindset.
Yes.
And then enabled by technology.
Yes, because if you look at the planet, it's still the same size.
Yeah.
It's not growing. Since growth means actually, transformation of raw material, really. Since the planet is not growing, we need to see a different way of ourselves understanding what we consider luxury, growth, and all these things, because the planet is the same size.
Correct. Yeah. Natural resources are irreplenishable.
And you were talking about local materials, and absolutely, right? And we should make efforts. I understand for the foreseeable future, it's still going to be sourced out of places like China. However, if we don't make the effort, and if the demand is not there, certainly nobody will do it.
Yes.
When I eat, for instance, I consider that my food should come out of a kitchen, not a factory. So just with a simple mindset like this, you can start taking action on your diet, and making certain that instead of buying snacks at the supermarket, you actually buy vegetable and fruits at the market. And that's the vision. We should all try to be more gentle and nicer with each other as well.
This also brings to the next question that, a lot of time people don't understand these small things, how a small change in lifestyle can make huge difference collectively.
Sure. Look at all these plastic bottles that have been used today. It's staggering. You go in the back there and you're going to have a container, like one of those huge container full of plastic bottles. I'm not being hard on you.
But they tell us that these are, recyclable. Is it
Yeah,
true?
I don't believe it. No, I believe it somewhat. Everything is recyclable given the right amount of time. No, so of course we understand why we're doing this, but there is also fountain outside that we could use.
Yeah.
I myself opened one.
Okay. All right. So how do we foster collaboration between people and architecture? Because at a higher level, people do not understand how architecture influences them, good way or bad way. If it's a bad architecture, how it influences them. If it's a good architecture, how it influences them. How do we create that collaboration between the people who are the users and the architecture?
Well, if it's bad architecture, people know it right away. Right? They know it right away. They are not happy. They don't want to be there. There is no light, or you can see, how they started to demolish all those social housing bars all over Europe because they are ugly. Back then, architects thought it would be a good idea to put thousands of people into large bars with no amenities, really. It turns out people like to have parks for their children to play in. Now those parks in many places are actually used for drug trafficking. So that's not the fault of the architect. That's the fault of, the society, whatever you want. But one without the other is not going to work. So we are not responsible for the good or the bad, but we're certainly one of the links in this overall, tapestry of well-being for the cities. We are part of an important link, and one of our functions is to remind each of us, developers, engineers, that we have a social responsibility. It's not a big word. We don't have to, it's just like to be nice, to make certain that it is handicap accessible when it needs to be, things like that. Just be the consciousness of that we need to be always better.
That's right. Architect is one of the small links between the entire tapestry of the social fabric, and it is each building collectively makes a city. So
even the most ruthless of developers, and I've met a few, at the end of the day, they feel better about a project if they're happy about it, if they think that, yes, I've done good work. Even the most money, interest, they will still rather do a good project than a bad project.
Right, right. So it's a good project will give good feeling to, even as you said, the most who are focused on money or this thing. Everyone has a different perspective of what architecture is, what creating buildings is. For Yann, Leroy, how do you define architecture?
Well, first of all, the architects don't build buildings. We design them and we produce the documentation for other people to build them. That's what we do. So that's it. There would be the design and documentation of buildings. We don't really build buildings. That would be nice, but then we would have to use our own money. And it turns out our clients don't pay us enough.
That's right. So let's leave that to contractors. But for you, what does architecture means?
It means that it's what I like to do. It's really what I like to do. I like to go in the office in the morning and sit down and have a three-dimensional problem, which is posed by the client, a program and so on. To have a three-dimensional problem that needs to be resolved by sketching a solution on paper. That's what I enjoy doing. That's the puzzle approach. Once we've done this, it's try to make it look as good as possible. And it makes me happy all the way from the beginning to the end. Some projects, of course, are rather dreary. I was fortunate, as you mentioned, to do a lot of five-star residential, hospitality projects. And it turns out that this experience in hospitality is now, you can translate it into more residential approach, because people who went to and they stayed at the Four Seasons, the St. Regis, they feel good about it. Well, they pay a lot of money for it, right? So they feel good about it. And when they go home, when they're going to buy a new apartment and everything, they would love a little piece of that action. It's like, I wish my friends were as impressed when they come to my place as I was when I stayed at St. Regis in Bangkok. Something like that.
Yeah, right. So that's what you like most about your work, creating spaces, creating something different. What's a turn off for you?
A turn off. A turn off. A prison, for instance, I would not do a prison. Okay. No, seriously, with my partners back in New York, we looked at it. It was during one of the downturns of the market and everything, but the government service administration was looking at building penitentiaries. And there we said, no. We need the money, but no. So this kind of project would be a no-no. But recently, for instance, I started to do a hospital, and it's quite. It's very, very interesting to also, care of the person, and so it's very, very interesting. Aside from prison, no, I don't, not much.
Okay, all right, great. So let me ask you, so what is the source of your creative inspiration? What inspires you to create?
That's a tough one, because I am a poster child for globalization, right? I was born in Africa, grew up in Paris, I did my university in Tokyo, lived my life in New York, doing international buildings in Asia, basically. So where is it? I like to tell stories, actually. I like to, when we do a resource in particular, I like to tell a story relatively simple. Or even for the Bangkok, the Santara Grand in Bangkok, for instance, it's a lotus flower, so I say, we're going to do this lotus flower. And then it becomes the logic behind the entire development. So I like to tell a story that is simple, that people can understand. When the client, the chairman of the board, whatever, when he goes back home, talks to his wife or her husband, and the companion will say, "Oh, what is the project about?" You know, then they say, "Oh, well, it's a lotus flower." You know, it's like everything simple. If you do concepts which are like too difficult or like, that's not good. That already you're losing the track at the very beginning. So a nice story that is going to excite everybody and is going to keep everybody on track, including all the contractors, the engineers, for the duration of the project. So that's that I think is
Right.
my approach.
In my conversation with another architect, he said, he always, he's very passionate about music. So in his designs also, he always likes to see some kind of a rhythm going on. And I think that same thing is true with you. You want each design to tell a story or be inspired by a story. That's how you create your own designs.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's
projects.
a guy, as I say, it's like the red line that everybody follows in
Yes.
that
The thread of that
labyrinth,
story,
in that
yeah.
maze that is the development of a concept.
Right. If you have to give one word of advice to the young architects and designers in India or any other part of the world, what would be your advice to these young guys or girls?
Always learn new tricks. First, to master the old tricks. Draw, sketch. But always learn new tricks. So that you can...
I think students are not sketching anymore.
Well, exactly. So
Yeah.
how do you want to be, good at something if you miss the first few steps? Learn to sketch. Learn to do all sorts of crazy things on a computer, because learning those things just takes a few weeks max, right? And you cannot stop there. Once you have mastered that piece of software that does this and that, you cannot stop there. You need to learn new tricks all the time, and don't forget the basics, which is, at the end of the day, maybe a client at lunch is going to say, "Oh, so," and you're going to sketch on the table right there. So that's, learn your tricks and don't forget the old ones.
So follow the basics, keep learning, keep evolving, keep bringing something new to the table. That's the word of advice from Yann, Leroy. And I think it is true for any industry or any sector, wherever you are.
It should be, right?
Yeah,
It should be.
yeah, it's true for
No,
everyone.
It should be, but maybe if you're a chef, for instance, people will be clamoring that you do the most traditional recipe possible. So your learning there is going to be, maybe how are you going to source those ingredients in today's market. For indeed, if we don't learn, we stop. The other advice I would give is like, this, you were talking about success and everything. When I was a young student, the success was like meeting the next deadline. That was like a success,
Yeah,
right? Then it was like finishing a project. And then it was getting a project so I could feed the office. And it turns out that there is always another goalpost. So you never achieve that success if you think that's reaching the goalpost. Now, if you are in a frame of mind that actually you enjoy what you're doing and you are making a living at it, it's already a success. So even those young kids, they went from school, now they're working for a company, they should already feel like it's not that they are on the rat race and they're going from, no, they already achieved something which is theirs forever.
So enjoy your successes one step at a time.
Yeah.
Keep achieving something more, keep adding something more to what you are doing, and I think that is how to go about it. Talking about your accomplishments, like we were talking in the speakers lounge, you have to pick the favorite child.
That's what I said. Yeah, like asking somebody to pick his favorite child. I like probably it's not the most luxurious, but I really like the Santara Grand in Bangkok. I developed a very good relationship with the client. Actually ended up living in that hotel for a long time, and it was really a good experience. The Sofitel in New York made my mother very happy. So that was a success of sort, right?
Yeah, if you can make your mother happy, I think that's
Exactly.
the biggest accomplishment anyone can
Well, at least
be proud of.
at least you're off the hook for a couple of weeks,
Couple of weeks, okay. All right. So last question to you before we wrap up. What is your wish for the future, for the near future? What is that you want to achieve, you want to do?
Well, my dream here is, I was mentioning how under performing is the tourism in India. There is a huge market for even domestic tourism. There is a huge resort, hotel potential, or even you're building all those office buildings. You're going to need hotels also to serve those office buildings. There's a huge market which is totally underperforming right now. And as Indian people become more affluent and travel more, as the rest of the world will come to India more, you will need a lot of hospitality places. So there is a great deal. So I'm dreaming maybe of doing some fantastic resort somewhere, in the Himalayas or somewhere would be great.
Well,
No, but Goa is fine too.
Oh, Goa is fine too. So, okay, we'll start with Goa and probably then go on to the Himalayas.
Yeah.
So, we look forward to having a fantastic design from Yann Leroy in India also. And as he said, yes, tourism is something that India has a huge potential, and hospitality is one market where we can have huge. World is already looking towards India. Whether it is for business, whether it is for vacation, whether it is for tourism, whether it is even for religious tourism now that we are seeing. So that is where Yann Leroy is going to make his mark very soon, and we are looking forward to it. But thank you, Yann, for joining us here.
Thank you.
If there is any question from the audience, we can take it. Shubhajit, anyone who has any?
Want to ask something?
Because I have already asked, what I wanted to ask from Yann about what he is doing, what his
There's a thing like, what do you think is a question I should have asked you and I didn't ask? That works too.
Oh, great! Yeah. What did I miss out asking you, Yann?
No, you've been fantastic. Actually,
Okay.
I cannot think of one. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yann. Thank you for joining us.